Adventures with Superman Season 2 premieres May 25th from midnight to 1 a.m. on Toonami.
So My Adventures with Superman was a pretty, I would say, a pretty successful breakout show for Toonami and Max when it came out last year. I know I really, really enjoyed season one and what they did with it. Obviously, including more elements of anime into the story, and obviously having it be very much integrated with Toonami, and then the next day premiere on Max gave it a bit of a different feel. And also, the show, in terms of what it did with season one, focused a lot more on the relationship between Clark Kent, Superman, Lois Lane, and sort of their burgeoning, developing love and relationship with one another. This season, however, certainly expands the scope and the size of the show in terms of the supporting characters, and definitely goes in some really interesting directions. But they turned the season around pretty quickly, knowing that it was going to be a very much anticipated season as a follow-up to that first one that they did last year. So with all of that out the way, man, I will pass it to you. What did you think about the latest season of My Adventures with Superman?
It's still good. It's still good. I think My Adventures with Superman is it's such a fun, and you already say, anime inspired take on Superman. I'm just always interested. Also, even similar to we're talking about with Cape Crusader, it's like, what are they going to do with these different villains, and what are they going to do with these different heroes, and how does it feel? And I sometimes I just enjoy. Oh, that's different. And I always look at the screen and look sideways, like, oh, where did that come from? Or wait, is that who I think it is? Or you hear a name of something, you're like, wait, I think I know what that is. And they'll show you the character. So this season is of no exception. It's very similar to the first. I think it starts a little slow at first, a little bit, not in a bad way, not necessarily. It's just like, oh, this is normal. And towards the end of the season becomes a banger. I was like, wait, these last couple episodes are really good. Even by then, I feel like it could have used one more episode. The end of the season really feels like it like, I don't know. I feel like it moved really fast because there was so much happening in the past couple episodes. Those episodes are very through line and connected. And I was like, dang, we got here really quick. I feel like I could have used like one more episode to really sit on it. But I love the direction that they're continuing to take in this show. Things are moving, I think, fast in a good way. Like, we've had Superman stories where, I don't know, it could just be one or two villains or one or two big supporting characters showing up. But by the end of season 2 of this show of My Adventures with Superman, I feel like we've seen a ton. I'm like, dang, there's a lot of characters in this show right now, and I'm not saying that for a bad thing. I'm actually pretty impressed with how fast they were able to get here with these many characters in the show, with as amount of time that they've had. It's a really cool thing to see, I think, especially given how much time we have kind of spent with our core characters of Clark and Lois and Jimmy and things like that. I think they're doing a pretty good job on that front. I'm talking about the past couple episodes again. I love how anime it got. We know it's anime inspired. A lot of the episodes aren't always like, dang, that felt like anime. But the last couple was like, no, y'all was going crazy. This really feel like it animated me. And I love, I just love that take and that feel while keeping it Superman and while keeping it comic book. I thought that was some pretty good things going on. Voice acting is solid. Again, plot might have been a little rushed, but I think they set out to what they're trying to accomplish. And now I feel like we've gotten to a point where season 3, you got to do some interesting things. Like, I feel like even this season still felt like a ramp up of who is Superman, who is he connected to, what is him and Lois's relationship. Now I feel like a lot of that stuff has been established. It's like, all right, season 3, what the hell y'all gonna do now? And I think I'm interested to see what that season looks like. I think they might have more of a challenge a little bit in that way, because of, again, all those things I said. But yeah, man, I really like a lot of the shots. I like the feel. I like really everything going on in the show, man. I think overall season 1 still might be better, and that could just be the nature of like the origin and learning this new Superman show and all these new relationships that they have. But overall, man, I think they're doing what they set out to do, and it's still a good time for me. So yeah, My Adventures with Superman season 2 is still pretty solid on my end.
Yeah, good show and good season for sure. Season 1 is better, no doubt about it. I think that the biggest drawback with season 2 is just because of the amount of new characters that we're including. We're not focusing as much on the dynamic between Clark, Jimmy, and Lois Lane. I think that that was the beating heart of season one and really what separated it from all the other interpretations that we typically do see, just knowing how close knit those three are and how well developed that relationship and dynamic between those three were in the first season was just a joy and a treat to watch. We lose a little bit of that in this season, which is unfortunate because, again, they are introducing a lot more here. We have Task Force X coming into the play and Brainiac and Supergirl. There's a lot of new characters, Lex, and I will say about those characters and their inclusions, I do like the interesting takes that they have here on some of those characters because they still feel true to who the characters are. They just appear a bit differently. They have a little bit of a reinterpretation. Things are definitely, I think, a lot more based in technology and science as opposed to like magic. And I found that to be really, really interesting, that they took that approach, and certainly some twists and turns too, especially once you get to the middle of the season. There were some things that I did not see coming, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And at times we revert back to the status quo of what you know to be true, but I think that they got there in interesting ways. But ultimately, it was a really, really solid follow-up season. This is a really, really good show that I think anybody would enjoy and tap into. And when you're talking about Superman, who is just a tough character to crack, and we'll see how the live action stuff does in a year with James Gunn's movie. But as far as like animation, Superman doesn't have necessarily the longest lineage of great animated series like Batman does. There is Superman the Animated Series, which is a really, really good animated series, also developed by that same team behind Batman the Animated Series. But there's not a ton in between where it's like, oh, that was an incredible Superman take in that particular show. He's always been a part of the Justice League, and they've had some solo movies come along that have been, decent to good. But I think for the first time in quite a while, we have a show that feels reliable, feels like it's going to be something that we can always tap into and ultimately enjoy. And now we have a very, very, I think, healthy state of DC television in terms of the animated stuff. It'll be interesting to see how things are either integrated or not integrated into James Gunn's plan in DC Studios, because a lot of this stuff was developed before he took over. So I'll be interested to see how they handle it. But this is one that I think that they should certainly keep around because it's definitely a winner on the part of DC, Warner Brothers Animation, and the folks at Adult Swim. So definitely a good, solid follow-up season. Can't wait to see what they do in the future. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the second season of My Adventures with Superman. If you've checked out the latest season, hit us up and let us know what you think.